Okay, goeienaand en baie welkom by SAI se Boere en Belasting webinar. Before we go any further, let me just assure you that you as the viewer, that this webinar will be presented in both Afrikaans and English. And we want to encourage you to please ask any questions you may have in the language of your choice in the comment section below at the end of the presentations by our guest speakers. SAI se bestaansrede is om familieboere op hulle plase te hou. En een van die grootste bedreigings vir enige familieboer is finansiële oorlewing. Dis belangrik want daar kan baie uitdagings kom en rampe tref, maar finansiële moeilikheid is baie moeilik om te oorleef. Alhoewel 'n boerdery ook 'n besigheid is, funksioneer hy anders as 'n normale besigheid. En SARS erken dit ook so. Daarom is daar spesiale vergunnings gemaak vir boere. Maar daardie reëls en wetgewing verander deurlopend en daarom is dit nodig om op hoogte te bly van die nuutste verwikkelinge in die veld en dis hoekom SAI van ons kant af vir julle as familieboere hierdie netwerk vernoot te bring wat absolute kundigheid het in die gebied. So ek moedig julle aan om asseblief julle vrae in die kommentaar afdeling hier op Facebook te plaas. Ons sal dan die vrae in die laaste halfuur hanteer en indien daar enige verdere vrae sal julle sien dat ons die sprekers se kontakbesonderhede op in die kommentaarafdeling sal plaas en julle kan hulle direk kontak. So vanaand se gesprek word gefasiliteer deur Melanie le Roux. Sy is 'n direkteur by Tax Risk Underwriting Managers en sy is verantwoordelik vir bemarking en distribusie by die maatskappy. Mel, thank you for agreeing to do this and we look forward to learning more.
Thank you very much, Francois, for inviting us. For those that wonder why I'm speaking English, I am an English Melanie le Roux, so apologies. As Francois did say, this event will be, and the presentations will be conducted in both English and Afrikaans to accommodate everybody. Before we kick off tonight, I actually would like to extend my thanks to you, Francois, and your team at SAI for inviting all of us here today. And this thanks on behalf of our guest speakers and my colleagues at Tax Risk. And I hope that the content that we cover tonight, that everyone is going to find very useful and will be able to take something forward with this and know that we are available to assist you in any way we can. So let me just start with introducing, for those that don't know who Tax Risk Underwriting Managers is, we've been around since 2014 and we are the only product provider in South Africa which offers insurance protection for taxpayers like all of you against a possible SARS tax audit and disputes. And I will be taking you through our offering a little bit later during the evening. Our first two guest speakers tonight actually do belong to separate companies. One is a tax attorney, other one is a tax advisor, but they actually form part of Tax Risk's external panel of experts. And they have many, many years in the trenches in dealing with SARS and have been instrumental in assisting our clients in their tax disputes with SARS. Underpinning the discussion tonight, our fourth guest speaker will be focusing on the benefits of accessing real-life financial data, especially during a SARS tax audit. So I know we don't have a lot of time tonight, and you know the topic is it's going to be something that there's going to be lots of Q&As and questions, and I know that SAI is going to be making all of our respective information available. It's going to get posted into the comment section on Facebook tonight during the session. It's also going to be shared on your social media platforms as well as the website, so that you'll be able to get hold of us after the event should you want to have further discussions with any of us. Okay, so let me start with introducing our first guest of the evening. Schalk Pieterse is a tax attorney. He's the co-founder and MD of Pieterse, Sellner, Erasmus, TRM tax attorneys, and they specialize in various fields of tax law disputes and tax debt settlements. They have a firm grasp on the internal systems and process and procedures of SARS, coupled with over 17 years of SARS tax and high court litigation experience. They offer clients practical cost-saving solutions, whether it's disputes around tax income, VAT refunds, capital gains tax, tax court litigation appeals, expat law advice, to name but a few of their services. They have offices all around South Africa, including the USA. So I'm just going to quickly go through what Schalk is going to be discussing tonight, and then I'm going to hand it over to him. He's going to be handling the overarching issues around tax diesel rebates. He's going to be talking around VAT refunds being offset against tax refunds payable by SARS. He's going to talk about tax refund delays with SARS and what are your rights and what can you do about it. And he's also going to talk about some of the remedies available within our existing tax laws that will assist you in maintaining your tax compliance status. So Schalk, over to you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Melanie, thank you so much for the nice introduction. As Melanie said, guys, I'm Schalk. At TRM Tax Attorneys, we specialize only in tax law. So with tonight's presentation, I am going to convert from English to Afrikaans, just for ease of reference mostly. And a lot of what I'm discussing tonight will focus on diesel rebates for the sole reason that I know it to be, from experience, quite a contentious issue at the moment, but also just from the feedback that we're getting from the farming community and the farming clients. It's really an issue at the moment. So over and above the other things that Mel have mentioned that will mostly transpose and be incorporated into what I discuss under rebates, I do hope you find it to be helpful. I am going to share my screen and just talk to a few slides. I'm not going to play the slideshow because I want to jump between slides in having this discussion. So just tell me, Mel and Francois, if something's not showing correctly. Do you guys have it open in front of you?
Yes, we do, Schalk.
All right, guys. So my intention is certainly not to bore you with any of the legislative provisions and any of the legal polemic, but at the same time, it is important for you to be able to have reference to some of these provisions that I mentioned here. Now, our diesel rebate system is a clawback provision that is basically governed and regulated by the Customs and Excise Act, but it's administered through the Value Added Tax Act. And this is extremely, extremely important. And this distinction will become quite apparent in a few minutes' time. Now, wat baie belangrik is om te besef hierso is dat as jy jou dieselkortingseis instel, word daai eis ingestel onder die douanewet. So die douanewet is basically die Customs Act. So as jou kortingseis nie toegelaat word nie en hulle keer dit nie goed nie, dan gaan jy dit in effek gaan beklei met jou douanewet. Maar en hier is die belangrike deel. As jou aanslag en jou kortingseis goedgekeur was, dan gaan daai welke eis en daai terugbetaling of daai afset gaan verskyn op jou BTW-aanslag. Okay? En hoekom dit belangrik is omdat dit val onder die BTW-aanslag en die BTW-wet, moet jy dit onder die BTW-wet beklei wat onder die TAA val. So die TAA is basically die Tax Administration Act. En jou beswaar wat jy lewer, wat deur die douanewet gaan afgehandel is, word jou terugbetaling gereguleer deur die TAA. En dit is waar daar tans 'n groot issue lê en vertraging lê, en dat belastingbetalers besig is om hulle eise te probeer instel onder die terugbetalingseis nou, onder die douanewet. So hierdie verskil tussen die twee wette en wanneer om dit gebruik is eintlik verskriklik belangrik. Maar ek sal nou 'n bietjie meer daar gesels. So kom ons praat gou oor wanneer jy kan eis. Okay? En met betrekking tot wanneer jy jou brandstof korting kan eis, wil ek maar graag na hierdie Canyon Resources saak verwys. En ek gaan gou daarvan af lees, want dit doen soms dit nogal baie goed op. So, in the present case, the injunction to users was that those who wished to claim rebates had to demonstrate with sufficient particularity the journey the distillate fuel has traveled from, purchased to supply, and then with equal particularity indicate the eventual use of every liter of such fuel in eligible purposes. Should the eventual use not be stated or sufficiently indicated, the claim fails. Okay. Should the volume of the diesel use not be clearly determinable, gaan jou eis nie deurgaan nie. Should the journey of every liter not be particularized, the claim would also once again fail. So, julle weet seker hoe om hierdie eise in te stel. Julle weet seker watter vorms om te gebruik ensovoorts, maar in opsomming, ons moet altyd die voorgeskrewe vorm gebruik, ons moet altyd die fakture aanheg, en jy moet seker maak jy hou korrek logboek. Nou, ek sal hierdie voorlegging van vandag, Fransja, vir julle stuur, en asseblief, voel vry om dit vir almal aan te stuur, maar julle sal sien, hier is typiese voorbeelde van die logbooks wat jy moet gebruik. Maar wat belangrik is as jou kortingseis, nou nie enige van hierdie dokumentasiebewyse voldoen nie, en jy dalk vergeet om iets aan te heg, of iets is nie ingedien nie, is dit verskriklik belangrik om kennis te neem van die feit dat dit nie noodwendig outomaties jou eis van die hand wys nie. En ek het gevind nou al dat die SARS beamptes uit gewoonte uit sommer dadelik die eis van die hand wys, en nie eers vir die belastingbetaler 'n geleentheid gee om 'n beswaar aan te teken en welke dokumentasie met die beswaar in te dien. So wanneer jy nou in 'n situasie sit wat jy dalk verkeerd logboek gehou het, maar of jy het jou invoices verkeerd aangeheg, of die verkeerde invoice, of die invoice het sekere informasie nie bevat nie, beteken dit nie dis die einde van jou eis nie. If your claim is legit and the service was rendered, you are by all means, and provided the service obviously was rendered contractually, you are by all means entitled to then, if your claim is disallowed, file your objection and then support that objection and amplify it with the necessary documentation that you forgot to add, or with the rectified documentation, whatever the case may be. There is case law to that effect as well, the Jazz Festival case. So in essence, don't let that necessarily be the end of your claim. Nou, net vinnig, as ek gou bietjie meer oor dispute kan praat, baie van julle is maar nou in 'n geval waar julle brandstofkortingseise nie toegelaat word nie, en dan moet julle natuurlik nou beswaar lewer. Now, it's extremely important to note that that objection process, and I can't stress this enough, that objection process and dispute resolution process is regulated by the Customs Act. So you follow the customs procedure. So you will effectively file what you call your DA51 form, and SARS will have 60 days to adjudicate that form or internal appeal. If that's disallowed, you'll essentially proceed with what we call a DA96 notice. And if SARS don't give you feedback within 30 days, you have to proceed with your court application. Now, it sounds very scary, I guess, when one starts talking litigation and bringing a court application against SARS, but this is it's a statutory run-of-the-mill needed legal remedy that you invoke. It's not that you're suing SARS and you're now putting a target on your back. Quite to the contrary, they have a habit to then administer your claims more clearly because they know you'll enforce your rights. I'll speak to the suspension of payment in a while. Only other, I think important thing to note is that you can, by agreement, try and enter into alternative dispute resolution if you wish, to see if you can sort the claim out in that manner. Maar nou, wat is die issue hierso? Die issue is die vertraging. Die issue is dat as jy nou jou beswaar geleaseer het in die voorgeskrewe vorm van jou DA51, hoor jy niks van SARS daarna nie. Jy het 'n kontantvloei issue, jou terugbetaling word nie uitbetaal nie. En wat is jou regte? Nou, ongelukkig vind ek soveel belastingbetalers en verteenwoordigers en praktisyne wat bloot litigeer met korrespondensie. Dit werk nie so nie en jy gaan nie baie ver kom daarmee nie. En met gevolg moet jy weet wat jou regsmiddels is. So SARS na 60 dae nie vir jou enige antwoord gee nie en nie na jou toe terugkom nie. Dan gaan jy en in effek 'n artikel 11.4 kennisgewing uitstuur na daai 60 dae verby is, die 61ste dag, en vir hulle sê ek gee vir julle 10 dae om my beswaar te oorweeg en vir my uitkoms te gee en vir my antwoord te gee. As SARS nie na daai 10 dae vir jou antwoord gee nie, dan doen jy wat ons noem 'n artikel 62G PAJA aansoek. Nou vir die van julle wat nie weet wat PAJA is nie, weer eens, ek probeer nie mense nou confuse met legislative terms and law and regurgitation of the statutes. I'm not trying to do that, but you need to know that these are your remedies. And for those of you that don't know what PAJA is, it's the law, it's the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act, and it's the law that effectively governs government officials when they make unreasonable, unlawful, or procedurally unfair decisions, when they conduct themselves in an unlawful, unfair, or unjust manner. And these acts and these claims are subject to PAJA. So dit is belangrik dat julle weet wanneer om so aansoek te bring. En as jy 60 dae dan verloop en jy het nie 'n antwoord gekry nie, en jy bring jou PAJA aansoek sonder om nog 6 maande te wag, voor jy weet as jou eis uitgesorteer en jy het jou antwoord gekry. Alright, however, what if it happens that your claim is in fact approved, so your diesel rebate is approved, maar hulle betaal nie uit nie. En ek weet hoe baie mense gaan nou hand opsteek om te sê hoe dit van toepassing is op hulle. Wat is jou regsmiddels as dit gebeur? As jou korting goedgekeur is, maar SARS betaal dit nie, lê jou regte in artikel 190 van die TAA. Okay? Daai geld, wanneer dit verskyn op die BTW-aanslag, let wel, BTW-aanslag. As daai terugbetaling verskyn op die BTW-aanslag, is dit dadelik betaalbaar. En as SARS dit dan nie betaal nie, dan stuur jy 'n kennisgewing onder 11.4 en jy gee hulle 10 dae om welke betaling te maak. As hulle dan nie welke betaling maak nie, bring jy wat ons in effek noem 'n interdik om hulle te forceer om jou betaling te maak. En moenie 'n fout maak nie, SARS kry verskriklik baie van hierdie aansoeke. So joune gaan vir geen rede uitstaan nie. Nou, asseblief, ek is nie besig om litigasie aan te moedig nie. Ek is net besig om vir belastingbetalers te verduidelik dat jy sekere regte het in terme van die wet wat jy moet gebruik. So, ten slotte, as ek mag miskien te verduidelik met deur middel van 'n voorbeeld. As jy nou tipies, kom ons sê 'n BTW betaling aanspreeklikheid na jou 2 maande van R1 miljoen het. Okay, maar nou het jy jou kortingseis van R500,000. So jou kortingseis word nou afgespeel teen jou BTW uitset. En jy skuld SARS net R500,000. Maar nou gaan SARS en hulle laat nie jou brandstofkortingseis toe nie. Nou moet jy eers 'n beswaar maak. Now you have to go and you have to object to that R500,000 diesel rebate that is not being allowed. And remember, again, I'm going to underscore that takes place in terms of the Customs Act. While you're fighting your R500,000 diesel rebate claim that's not being allowed, you don't necessarily now have to go and pay the whole R1,000,000 so long, as SARS usually insists that you do. You file a 164 suspension of payment application to suspend the obligation to pay that R500,000 until your dispute is finalized, which leaves you with the other R500,000. Now, because of this cash flow constraint and the cash flow issues that these claims caused, and that SARS disallowing simple rebate claims caused, you should invoke remedies. And this is again why the TRUM, tax risk underwriter managers policy, becomes so important, which is something I'm simply referring to because I've seen how it helps taxpayers. This is typically where you invoke your rights under the Tax Administration Act to compromise that debt or to enter into a payment arrangement. Jy kan byvoorbeeld, as jou finansiële analise reg is, kan jy vir daai R500,000, en onthou julle, hierdie is nie net te doen met brandstofkortingseise nie, dis oor die algemeen, enige tax skuld wat van toepassing is. Kan jy gaan en dan bring ons 'n aansoek vir ons belastingbetaler en ons offer vir SARS byvoorbeeld R250,000. Ons vra vir hulle om 50% van die kapitaalskuld af te skryf en alle rentes en boetes ook af te skryf. En ons is redelik suksesvol met hierdie aansoeke, en die rede hoekom ek dit noem vir julle is omdat soveel belastingbetalers opeindig om hulle deure toe te maak wanneer hulle maklik hulle finansiële bestuur onder die Tax Administration Act kon gehandhaaf het, as hulle net geweet het wat hulle regsmiddels was. So ja, dit is, ek dink, ek kan vir dae praat oor hierdie brandstofkortingseise met die sake wat ons mee sit en met die probleme wat die boere gemeenskap mee sit, maar ek dink hierdie lig die kernpunte uit. Ek hoop dit doen en ek hoop dit gee vir julle praktiese insette oor wat julle kan doen om hierdie goed te beklei, om julle terugbetaling te kry, om as jy sit met R1 miljoen aanspreeklikheid 'n offer te maak en SARS en op 'n nuwe bladsy te begin, of selfs onder artikel 167 jou R500,000 of jou R1 miljoen in hierdie voorbeeld oor 12 maande af te betaal of 24 maande af te betaal. En jy ondersteun dit, jy ondersteun daai aansoek wat jy bring met die feit, jy ondersteun dit met die feit dat SARS, wat die wette verkeerd geïnterpreteer het in hierdie instansie, die kontantvloei probleem veroorsaak het, en met gevolg is jy's geregtig om daai regsmiddels uit te put. Yeah, Mel, thank you. I think that's all from our side. I hope that helps, and obviously questions are welcome, and as I understand it, we'll address it at the end. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Schalk. It was very informative. So I'd like to hand over to the next speaker now. Next speaker is Graeme Saggers. He's a qualified chartered accountant and a tax director of Nolands Tax, which forms part of Nolands Group of audit and advisory companies. Nolands Tax is a dynamic team of professional tax advisors that pride themselves on being influential and simple in their approach to tax consulting and dispute resolution. He has presented and published research on various tax topics, both locally and internationally, and maintains a keen academic interest as an external examiner and guest lecturer at UCT and the University of KZN. Graeme will be addressing the topic around the latest trends in tax collection methods used by SARS in an attempt to close the tax collection gap, all resulting in massive increase in audits, lifestyle audits and garnishing audits. Over to you, Graeme. Thank you.
Thanks, Mel, and thanks, Francois, and your team for having me tonight. It's great to spend the evening with everyone. I wanted to spend, I don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to spend some time just talking about what we observing at SARS and our interactions with SARS, and hopefully give some insights into what taxpayers can expect in the short and medium term future. The first thing I wanted to talk about is I'm not sure many people are aware of this, but every year SARS and Treasury together release a document of statistics on their tax collections for the year, and it's quite a comprehensive document, and it's quite insightful in terms of how they are collecting taxes and who they're collecting from, and what the trends are showing. And in going through the statistics, there's a few things that are picked up that I find quite interesting. So the first is, if you look at where the tax collections are coming from, what you can see is that currently personal income tax accounts for 39% of all tax collections. And that's interesting because 5 years ago, that was only 36%. So there's very clearly trend, and it's a policy trend to shift the tax burden away from companies and away from VAT towards personal income tax, because they see this as an area where it is simpler to collect taxes and it is more, I guess, lucrative in a way. But then when you look at the individuals that are paying tax, we see that there's just short of 23 million registered individual taxpayers. So now we need to bear in mind that 23 million out of a population of 55 million people is less than half. But now in looking at those 23 million, we see that in the 2020 year, there were 4.3 million assessed individual tax returns. So of those 23 million registered individuals, only 4.3 million were actually assessed last year. And that 4.3 million is further interesting because 5 years ago, there were 5.9 million individual tax returns that have been assessed. So what that clearly shows is that there are less individual taxpayers being assessed every year. When you further drill down into those 4.3 million assessed taxpayers, we see that just short of 1 million of those taxpayers are earning above 500,000 Rand in income a year, per year. So those 1 million people out of the 55 million population is clearly what Treasury and SARS are targeting in order to get the bulk of the tax collections. That being said, in the budget speech this year, we were all quite surprised to see no tax increases. So that asks the question, if the burden of tax collections being shifted towards individuals, but we're not increasing tax rates, where are we going to get the additional tax revenue from? And clearly what they are targeting is the other individual taxpayers that aren't being assessed year on year. So SARS have identified that there are a lot of negligence or non-compliant taxpayers out there. Another statistics that is quite interesting, which I'll pick up again later, is that of the registered taxpayers, there are 360,000 trusts that are registered. And of those 360,000 trusts, only 100,000 are submitting tax returns every year. And I point that out because I know that in the farming communities, many farms are registered in trusts, and I fully support that. Absolutely, a trust is an excellent vehicle to hold a farm in, because it can pass through generations quite easily without having to go through estate administration. But the reason why I'm highlighting that is because there will very definitely be a focus towards auditing trusts in the future. That is very clear. And to be honest, the reason why trusts haven't been audited that closely in the past is mainly, I think, because the Master's Office is generally very disorganized. But once they've digitalized that, there certainly will be a focus. So how are SARS going to do this? Well, we need to think of a few things. One, the new commissioner, Edward Kieswetter, is someone that was previously the deputy commissioner under Praveen Gordhan in the mid sort of 2000s. This was the era when e-filing was created and implemented, and Edward Kieswetter was the driving force behind this. He is someone that is a great operator, great organizer. He is very focused on IT, and SARS have a massive budget at the moment to improve their IT systems, to improve their artificial intelligence, and they're going to be using tech a lot to audit taxpayers and to analyze and risk assess taxpayers. SARS were awarded an extra 3 billion in funding in the budget this year, and a lot of that has gone towards tech as well as towards hiring. So under the previous commissioner, there was a massive brain drain from SARS. Very many very experienced SARS personnel left because of the toxic nature that was created there. And now with the kind of turnaround strategy, they've gone on a huge hiring spree. They recently, during this year, did a drive where they were advertising for 570 new positions, 270 of those being graduates, 300 being experienced hires, and the creation of new divisions such as a director of high net worth individuals. Now, Edward Kieswetter is aware of the value or benefit in going in auditing high net worth individuals, because he is the person that created the large business center in SARS very many years ago, and he is the person that created the initial high net worth individual office. So that's clearly a focus area. And they've made it clear that this will be the case. They've hired Judge Dennis Davis on a 1-year contract to consult to SARS. And they have identified recently in media releases 3 focus areas for them over the next year. These are the so-called low-hanging fruit that they want to investigate and go after. These 3 focus areas are taxi owners, cryptocurrency investors, and high net worth individuals. And their method for going after high net worth individuals or auditing high net worth individuals, they have identified as something we call lifestyle audits. So lifestyle audits are a mechanism that are used in various forensic circles, and something that was used by SARS often in the past, but has not been used that much recently. Although over the last year, we've started seeing them picking up a bit. Very simply, what happens in a lifestyle audit is SARS asks you to submit your statements of assets and liabilities, usually over the last 3 years, and then they ask you to reconcile those. So you need to be able to track how your net worth has increased over the last 3 years, and then reconcile those with your tax returns. So what they're effectively looking for there is if your assets have increased, but you're not declaring much income, where are you earning extra money from in order to purchase those assets? And what we've seen them doing is asking for bank statements and asking for people to go through their bank statements and go through line by line and justify over a 3 to 4 year period every line item that's gone through your bank statements in those years. So this is a mammoth task, and it is going to take a lot of time and energy and resources. So our kind of message to taxpayers is to be proactive and organized in your affairs, so that if and when these lifestyle audits do start happening, you are well prepared for them. How are they going to identify or verify what you're reporting? Well, they've already started talking about quite creative mechanisms to use to conduct lifestyle audits. SARS has in terms of the Tax Administration Act, has very far-reaching information gathering powers. So they can go to just about any institution in South Africa and ask for information on taxpayers, and those institutions are mandated to hand over information. So for example, what they are looking at doing is reconciling taxpayers' assets and liability statements with the deeds office to verify land or property that they own, and they do already have access to that information. They're looking at reconciling it. A big focus for them is with the vehicle registry office. So they want to be able to identify that where people are driving fancy cars, that they have the means to afford those cars. And if they don't, then how are they getting those cars? And then the last method that they've identified, as I touched on earlier, is the trusts. So they are looking at reconciling or integrating the SARS systems with the Master's Office in order to ensure that trusts are being administered correctly and are being reported on correctly. So in our world, I mean, we often asked, or clients often come to us and ask, how can we save tax, or how can we pay less tax, or how can we be more efficient? And our principle that we're sending out to clients at the moment is, if you want to save on tax, don't get penalized. Be organized in your affairs, and employ or engage with suitable people to help you get your affairs in order. Use tech products to help you monitor what you're doing, and be proactive in the sense of, we strongly recommend or enjoy the tax risk products. So, take insurance out on your tax return, so that when and if these audits do happen, you don't have to spend a lot of your own money to fight or investigate the audits. And yeah, pretty much what we are feeling, or what we're going to see in the next couple of years, is that SARS are going to be auditing more. They've increased their capacity. They've increased their ability to audit. And our message is really to know the answers to the questions before the questions get asked. Thanks, Mel. That's all from me.
Thank you very much, Graeme. So it's my turn now to take you through the tax risk offering. I'm going to just share the presentation and go through it, sort of a quick overview. And obviously, I will draw some relevance to some of the issues that our guest speakers have alluded to already tonight. Okay. Okay, so as I briefly mentioned in my introduction, we have been around since 2014, and we are the only provider in South Africa that offers this type of assurance to protect taxpayers, whether you're an individual, a business, or a trust, against a possible SARS tax audit or related dispute. All right, so I'm going to quickly show a quick video on why this product is really becoming a necessary priority for all of us as taxpayers in South Africa.
So you do everything right. Pay your taxes on time and maintain your records. You even have a good accountant to check and double check your tax returns. This doesn't guarantee that you won't be audited by the South African Revenue Service. You see, no matter how perfect your tax documents are, SARS is looking for ways to increase tax revenues. So they are looking for non-compliance, and they have tons of ways to determine if you are high risk. Let me rephrase that. It doesn't matter if you aren't non-compliant. It only matters that they think that you might be. And trust me, if they are going to look through your records, the tax man is clever enough to find even the smallest error. And if they think they found an error, they will tear apart your files. And then they hit you with a reassessment. Sometimes they don't even tell you why you were reassessed. You just get hit with a notification that you owe them additional taxes. They might even issue a garnishee order and take the money right out of your bank account. So, if SARS issues you with a reassessment, you have two options. You can pay the reassessed amount and penalties to make it go away, whether you're wrong or not, or you can stand up to them and prove you did nothing wrong. The best chance is for you to have your accountant or tax lawyer go to battle for you, which might take weeks or months, and all that work will cost you an arm and a leg in accounting and legal fees. But there's a better way. If you are ever selected for audit by SARS, or if there is a dispute between you and SARS about an unfair reassessment whereby SARS is demanding additional taxes from you, then tax risk insurance will appoint and pay for a team of highly qualified and experienced tax experts who will fight the case on your behalf without racking up tens of thousands of rands in accounting and legal fees. This team can include leading tax accountants, tax attorneys, and even your own accountant, as may be required to ensure a favorable and fair tax audit and dispute outcome. It's a perfect win-win situation for everyone. So don't wait. Cover your business partners, your trusts, and yourself with our low-cost tax risk insurance, and never worry about a tax audit or dispute again. Do not submit another tax return without tax risk insurance. Speak to your broker to get a quote now. When it comes to your taxes, tax risk insurance gives you the peace of mind when you need it most. Additional information on key product features are available on the Tax Risk website, www.taxrisk.co.za. Tax Risk Underwriting Managers is an authorized financial services provider.
So I think what was very interesting was some of the stats that Graeme shared with us this evening. And the truth of it is, South Africa is facing an ever-shrinking tax base, and SARS is facing a huge tax revenue shortfall. And it's an enormous task. And where are they going to find this money? And unfortunately, the truth of it is that we're actually all at risk. It's not only the tax dodgers that are at risk of a SARS audit. You can have the best accountant in the world and you can be tax compliant. But if they pick you up on their radar, there is no guarantee that you won't be audited. I mean, Graeme has spoken about lifestyle audits. They've even set up departments that are monitoring people's social media posts to see what you're posting reconciles with what you are declaring in terms of your tax. If you, in case in your industry, some of you might not be full-time farmers, some of you might be CEOs, but you actually own farms that are game and hunting farms or stud farms. And for them, you are low-hanging fruit. They are going to come and hunt and scurry around and try and find revenue wherever they can. And our experts, both Schalk and Graeme, have experience, and they will tell you that sometimes these assessments are completely irrational, all right? And when things go wrong and they take money out of your bank account, sometimes you just actually have to engage them in a legal capacity. The problem with that is these experts cost a lot of money. And if you have a look at the skill set that is required in order to dispute a tax audit, these individuals and specialists, they charge an hourly rate, all right? So if you choose to go this alone, you are going to have to not only pay for your tax accountant's time to assist and put this all together, but chances are you're going to have to get hold of a tax attorney, and they cost a lot of money. So how does this product work and how does it actually protect each of us? What happens if you have a short-term policy with tax risk underwriting managers and you do get audited? SARS comes back and says you owe them additional money or tax and you don't, or they just take money right out of your bank account. We would appoint and pay for a team of experts that will defend you to ensure a fair outcome, all right? Not only does that happen, but we also pay the cost of your current accountant's fees and services during the duration of a claim. Now, honestly, I ask you tonight, why on earth would you want to do this and go this alone when you can actually have a policy that gives you access to some of these experts that are speaking tonight? Plus, we obviously have got we've got a whole team of some of South Africa's best legal and tax minds to assist you. So if I look at this, it makes a whole lot of sense that each one of us should actually have a policy in place. So what is covered? We cover businesses, we cover individuals, and we do cover trusts, right? We have a product. I'm just going to quickly take you through the product, and I am talking very fast because my time allocation tonight is not as long as our experts is, but all of this information will be shared tonight. The links to all this information will be available. And of course, tomorrow we are available for you to make contact with us to have further discussions. But what I wanted to share with you is, obviously, when we talk about it, we cover companies, and this would possibly be where you actually insure your farm, all right? And then this is where you'd insure yourself. So often what happens is a lot of people say, okay, I want to take out a tax risk policy just for my farm, all right? But the problem is if SARS can't find anything wrong there, they're going to come after you as the owner. So it is always recommended that you would take out an individual policy. So let me just give you an example. If you have a look at companies, we look at last year's annual turnover. And for individuals, we look at the taxable income of the previous year. And if you have a look at the amount of premiums that you pay, whether you choose to pay for it monthly or annually, the indemnity limits are very robust, okay? Because if you have a look at what you would pay, an hourly rate for the experts, if you do this alone, and you have to pay to defend yourself, it's going to add up very quickly. And it has been our experience that we do not exceed these indemnity limits because it would not be in business if our policyholders would have to continue to pay out of pocket after already having an insurance policy in play. Graeme did mention that many of your farms are registered within trusts. And SARS is starting to hunt and look within the trusts. And so we do have 2 trust policies available for you to consider. We have a trading trust, which is where your business, or you'd be using this to conduct your business. And those that have a passive holding trust and you're using it for passive investment, we also offer cover for that as well. The only thing with all of this is if you decide to take out a policy for both your farm and yourself, each of these would have to be taken out as separate policies because the risk profile obviously is completely different. The only outlay that you would have is a 10% excess of claim, which is completely normal as per a normal insurance policy. Okay, so at a glance, the benefits. I think you will agree with me that considering the fact that you're going to get some of South Africa's best legal and tax experts in your corner when SARS comes after you, I think our premiums are incredibly affordable. You will know the indemnity limits are fixed, so you know what's available for the year, and you can claim more than once a year, because often SARS does come back, especially if you've got your farm covered. They can't find something with your VAT, they might come after and look at your PAYE. So it's always good to know that you've got, you know, money in the banks that you can actually claim more than once a year. The great thing about this policy is at inception, there is no waiting periods, which means as soon as that policy is activated, if SARS comes knocking, you can claim no matter how far SARS goes back, which gives you great peace of mind. It does remove the uncertainty of the cost of a tax audit, because it can be financially debilitating, all right? And of course, as I said, you know, we do cover both individuals, companies, and trusts. So we basically cover the full Monty. There is some exclusions, in as much as the policy is there to protect you as a taxpayer, to make sure that SARS is compliant and fair when dealing with us as taxpayers. This product is not a get out of jail free card, all right? This product is there for compliant taxpayers, all right? We will not pay a dispute if it's a result of tax evasion or fraud. We also don't pay for the normal annual submission of your tax return and the cost of your accountant's fees. That's normal part of paying tax in South Africa. That's not a tax dispute. We will not pay for any income that is generated outside South Africa's borders. So we don't cover imports and exports. And obviously, when there's no proper records being kept, it is very difficult to be able to assess you. It's a mess. The one thing is, often people say, but now if I've made a genuine mistake, my accountant's made a mistake and I didn't do anything wrong deliberately, it wasn't fraud, will you cover me? We can't cover your penalties and interests that you might legitimately owe SARS. But what we will do is we will not walk away from you. We will handhold you in negotiations with SARS to make sure that SARS deals with you in a fair and lawful manner, and that however you need to pay this, you will be able to do it, and that it will not bankrupt you. Okay. So I think the big thing is many of you might be sitting going, well, this is great. I really want this policy because I can see the value in this, but I actually have a current problem at the moment with SARS. What am I meant to do now with this? The thing about insurance is it's to insure you against a future event. And you might have a problem right now, but SARS is going to keep coming because they are targeting the farming community. You guys have problems with them all the time, and you don't know which way to turn, all right? So what we are offering to you tonight, and this is not part of the tax risk policy, I need to make that very clear, all right? But through our association with Schalk Pieterse and attorneys, all right, we are making a special offer for you tonight. All right. What we are saying to you is if any of you are currently having a massive problem, a dispute with SARS, and you actually just don't know what to do anymore, all right, you are able to contact Schalk directly, all right? The consultation to discuss with Schalk will be completely free. There'll be no cost involved for the initial discussion. If you decide after the discussion that Schalk's company can help you, right, and that you would like to contract their services, obviously the negotiated fee is a separate entity, and obviously he will bill you separately around that, right? If you choose to walk away, you are under no obligation. You will not have to pay anything for it, that first consultation, and also you are protected by attorney-client privilege. Now, the great thing is we still recommend, in spite of you might having a current problem, is to say activate a policy, all right? Get your house in order, because know that going forward, you are protected by SARS, and you will have access to all of these experts that can help you year on year, and you don't have to pay out of pocket anymore. Okay, so how are you going to activate a policy? Unfortunately, tax risk underwriting managers cannot sell directly to the public. We are an underwriting manager, so we sell through brokers. So there's a couple of ways that we can do this, all right? My application form is going to be made available to you via SAI. You can send this to your short-term broker and say, I want this policy, activate it for me, please. If your short-term broker doesn't sell tax risk at the moment, that's not a problem. You get your broker to contact me tomorrow. It takes me 40 minutes to get them product accredited, and we can get you signed up. If you decide that you don't want to wait for your short-term broker, contact me tomorrow and I will introduce you to a tax risk accredited broker, and we can get your policy activated immediately, and that you then have peace of mind to know that you are completely protected. Thank you guys for your time. And obviously any questions that you might have further beyond this can be put in the chat box, which will be answered after James's presentation. Okay, down. Okay, all right. James, last but not least, let me introduce you. You are a professional accountant, a founder and the MD of Accountuit Intuitive Accounting Solutions. Gosh, that's a mouthful. All right, the company you founded it in 2017 after seeing how often traditional accounting firms in South Africa fail to meet the needs of small and medium enterprises in providing access to accurate and timely financial data. All right, you are a cloud accounting firm which provides personalized service by being solutions driven and technology-centered. And you are now going to talk to everyone about the benefits of cloud accounting and real-time accounting financial data, especially during a possible SARS audit. Thank you, James.
There we go. Baie dankie, Melanie, vir daai inleiding. En vir Schalk en vir Graeme vir julle insigte. Ek dink ons almal kan baie daarvan wegvat. Fransjo het my vandag gevra, of het my gevra om vandag net 'n bietjie te gesels uit 'n rekenkundige oogpunt uit. En ek dink dis omdat rekenkunde en belasting hou natuurlik 'n baie noue verband. En ek dink Graeme het 'n baie goeie ding of het 'n baie waarding gesê. It's better to know the answers before the questions. En ek dink dit is grootendeels waaroor ek vandag wil gesels. Meeste mense sien maar hulle rekenmeester of hulle boekhouer as die ou wat vir hulle elke 2 maande sê wat hulle die ontvanger skuld. Of 1 keer 'n jaar in party gevalle. Maar rekenkunde en boekhouding behoort eintlik 'n baie groter rol in jou besigheid te speel as dit. Ons het vanaand redelik baie gehoor oor die nuutste verwikkelinge in die belasting en in die belastingwette. En daarom wil ek vandag ook 'n bietjie praat oor die nuutste verwikkelinge in die rekenkundige wêreld. Die grootste hiervan is die skuif weg van die scenario waar jy elke 2 maande jou lers by jou rekenmeester gaan aflaai. Daai lers wat jou bankstate, jou fakture, jou slips als bevat, en dan werk hulle hard daaraan vir 3 weke om so 'n paar dae voor maandeinde vir jou belastingopgawe te gee of jou BTW opgawe en vir jou te sê wat jy die vir SARS skuld. Nou ons probeer 'n bietjie daai die Engels sê bridge the gap tussen dit en ons probeer dit doen deur real-time accounting. The real-time accounting beoog om jou vandag te sê wat vandag in jou boeke aangaan. In plaas om jou vandag te sê wat laas maand of laas jaar in jou boeke aangegaan het. Die manier hoe ons dit reg kry is deur die gebruik van wat ons noem cloud accounting programme. Nou die gewildste hiervan op die oomblik in Suid-Afrika is Xero. Nou vir die wat nie weet hoe Xero of cloud accounting programme lekker werk nie, is hierdie programme is 'n log elke dag in jou bank in, trek al jou transaksies in en help jou dan om dit op te som in 'n sinvolle manier. Omdat jy die sagteware gebruik as jou rekenkundige sagteware, faktureer jy van hierdie sagteware af. En dit beteken jou verkope word dadelik op het gecapture en so ook jou debiteure en krediteure. Nou die manier hoe krediteure gerekord word is redelik maklik. Jy weet, daar's apps en goed wat intime met Xero. waar jy net foto's neem van jou fakture. So ek weet vir 'n feit, ek het 'n paar kliënte, boerekliënte wat as hulle hierso stop en hulle bakkie deure oopmaak, die slip so saam uitval. Dit is nou as jy nie jou boks vol slips elke dag by jou accountant wil gaan aflaai nie, by jou rekenmeester nie. So hierdie tegnologie laat jou toe om foto's van jou fakture te neem. Dit trek ook als in jou rekenkundige sagteware in. En so het jy letterlik wat gister gebeur het gister en vandag gebeur het jy elke dag toegang toe. En een van die baie groot voordele van hierdie is dat jy en jou boekhouer of jou rekenmeester dan op dieselfde stel op dieselfde finansiële sagteware werk. Hy kan dadelik sien wat gister in jou besigheid gebeur het en jy kan sien wat se veranderinge hy gebring het. Nou Graeme het baie geraak aan hoe SARS gaan fokus om tegnologie te gebruik om belasting in die toekoms, belastingbetalers te probeer uitlig. En vir daai rede dink ek dit is so belangrik dat ons as rekenmeesters en entrepreneurs dat ons rekenmeesters gebruik wat ook op die voorvoet van tegnologie is, sodat ons op die voorvoet is en sodat ons ook reg is dan wanneer SARS wel op jou deur kom klop. Nog 'n voordeel van hierdie cloud accounting is dat jou rekenmeester spandeer nou baie minder tyd aan die voorbereiding van jou finansiële state of van jou maandelikse state. Omdat also outomaties ingetrek word in die rekenkundige sagteware, word die tyd wat jou rekenmeester spandeer aan die opskryf van jou bankstate en van jou fakture so verkort. Wat dit ons nou toelaat om te doen is om ons tyd en ons energie eerder in 'n adviserende rol te gebruik. Dit help ook dat jy kan proaktief optree eerder as reaktief. So as jy onmiddellike toegang tot jou finansiële inligting het, as jy nie hoef te wag vir finansiële inligting nie, is dit baie makliker vir jou om besluitneming daarop te neem. Veral wanneer dit by kontantvloei kom. Die ander voordeel is natuurlik dat jy proaktief kan optree teenoor jou belasting. Dat jy nie een keer 'n jaar of een keer elke 2 maande eers begin sien waar jou belastingrekening of waar jou BTW rekening na toe beweeg nie, maar dat jy 'n konstante maatstaf het wat jy daai mee kan meet. Dan verder, daar's daar 'n groot ekosisteem van toepassings wat by hierdie cloud accounting sagteware intaai. En dit is dink ek ook wat dit soveel meer die moeite werd maak. Daar's byvoorbeeld Wen wat vir aanlyn verkope baie goed is. Daar's Deur wat vir voorraad baie goed is. Dan is daar SimplePay vir jou payroll wat dit baie vergemaklik. En al hierdie eksterne toepassings werk baie goed saam met jou sagteware dan. Jou rekenmeester behoort als dit te kan gebruik en hy behoort jou dan baie meer akkurate en timely, soos die Engels sal sê, timely inligting te gee. En weer eens, alles hierdie maak net die besluitneming soveel vinniger en soveel meer effektief. Want jou rekenmeester kan jou ook nou help, jou beter adviseer, omdat hy toegang het tot meer timely en akkurate finansiële inligting. Nou, Xero op die oomblik in Suid-Afrika is besig, as ons kan teruggaan na tegnologie en SARS. Xero is op die oomblik, het hulle nou nie te lank terug 'n nuwe produk geloods waar jy direk vanuit Xero jou belasting, jou BTW opgawes kan indien by SARS. So dit maak nou weer 'n hele nuwe wêreld oop vir ons en dit maak weer eens daai geskarrel wanneer die ontvanger kom klop by die deur, dit sluit dit heeltemal uit. Dit leen ook 'n sin van geloofwaardigheid aan jou boeke baie meer wanneer jy dan aan SARS jou opgawes indien. Ja, die lang en die kort daarvan is ek glo dat as jou rekenmeester nie op die oomblik jou aanhouds om cloud accounting te gebruik nie, gaan hy binne die volgende 5 tot 10 jaar gaan hy jou begin aanhouds om oor te beweeg na 'n cloud accounting platform toe. Net bloot omdat daai tyd waar jy 1 keer 'n jaar of 1 keer elke 2 maande daai kontak met jou rekenmeester het is verby. Jou rekenmeester gaan nou begin om 'n baie groter rol binne in jou besigheid te speel. Eerder as daai eksterne adviseur wat jy moet gaan sien en wat dit is wanneer jy hom gaan sien, gaan jou rekenmeester 'n baie meer interne en aktiewe rol in jou maatskappy kan speel omdat hy nie meer al daai tyd spandeer om historiese data op te som nie, maar eerder om aktief binne in jou besigheid in te kyk en dat hy toegang het om tot binne in jou besigheid te kyk. So ja, met dit dink ek is so te sê cloud accounting in 'n pakket. As enige vrae het oor cloud accounting en hoe dit in jou besigheid kan pas en of cloud accounting reg is vir jou besigheid en of jou besigheid te groot is en of hy te klein is vir cloud accounting, is julle welkom om die vrae te vra en julle is welkom om my ook te kontak. So ja, ek sê dankie vir François dat julle ons hier by SAI vandag hier gehou het en vir Melanie. Ja, dan gee ek weer terug aan julle.
Okay, thank you very much, James. So we do have a couple of questions coming up in our chat box. I'm going to ask the questions and then if I'm very sure who I should give it to, I will. Otherwise, and most of it looks like it's for Graeme and Schalk. So the two of you, take it away. Okay, so I think Nell, right in the very beginning, before we started presenting the product, you asked, why is it necessary to take out insurance against an audit if you're law abiding? I hope that my presentation did cover it, and so did some of the statistics that Graeme did share tonight. It doesn't matter, even if you're tax compliant, if they suspect that there's something or they feel like they want to take a chance, you do stand a chance of being audited. So unfortunately, it is what it is. Let me get down to Nadia Potgieter. Okay, what is the correct process to follow if SARS has opened a verification on a VAT period and we have not yet received correspondence after 45 working days and an escalation via the contact center? How long does it take for SARS to complete a verification and pay out the refund? What steps can we take? Schalk?
So basically, Nadia, I see the question was originally posed in Afrikaans, so I'll answer in Afrikaans for you. Nadia, jy wil as jy nou 'n verifikasie, audit het en ons 'n refund betaalbaar aan jou, 'n terugbetaling, maar hulle SARS betaal dit nie uit nie want daar's 'n verifikasie aan die gang. Dan kan jy gaan en wat artikel 190.3 sekuriteit tender en vir SARS sê dat luister, ons is bereid om borg te teken vir hierdie bedrag, ons is bereid om 'n bate op te sit of 'n bank guarantee check te gee, maar ons kort ons refund, ons kort ons terugbetaling. So ons tender hiermee sekuriteit onder artikel 190.3 en met gevolg moet jy dadelik die refund betaal. So al is daar 'n verifikasie, jy sal sien as jy gaan kyk na artikel 190 sê dat SARS hoef nie 'n terugbetaling te maak, byvoorbeeld vir BTW, as dit nou 'n BTW terugbetaling is, hoef hulle dit nie te maak as die verifikasie nog aan die gang is of as die audit nog aan die gang is nie, tensy tensy jy daai sekuriteit lewer. En ons het hoeveel kliënte wat daai refund nodig het vir kontantvloei doeleindes. So ons tender dadelik sekuriteit en sê vir SARS ons soek dadelik hierdie terugbetaling. En as hulle dit nie gee nie, doen ons 'n dadelike artikel 11 kennisgewing en probeer binne 'n week of 2 daai betaling kry. Maar kom ons sê jy wil nie of kan nie sekuriteit gee nie. In welke geval moet SARS dan nou natuurlik eers die audit klaarmaak of die verifikasie klaarmaak. En die wat redelikheid aanbetref, jy sal sien Nadia die TAA, die BTW wet, selfs die douane wet, geen van hierdie wette sê vir jou hoe lank SARS het om 'n audit klaar te maak. So met gevolg kyk jy na die gemeenereg en volgens die gemeenereg moet SARS 'n verifikasie en of 'n audit binne 3 maande, binne 90 dae klaarmaak. En as hulle nie doen nie, dan kan jy hulle op terme sit vir dit ook. Maar onthou nou, as jy buitensporige omstandighede kan wys, exceptional circumstances kan voorlê, hoekom jy wil hê die verifikasie of audit moet vinniger klaarmaak, dan kan jy definitief aan SARS skryf met 11.4. Ek noem altyd 11.4, julle, dit is wanneer jy vir SARS sê dat jy van voorneme is om hulle hof toe te vat, of om aksie teen hulle in te stel. Dan stuur jy die 11.4 prosedures en sê vir hulle, hier is die omstandighede, in terme van PAJA, die wet wat ek vroeër vir julle genoem het, moet jy redelik optree, jy is besig om onredelik op te tree, deur dat jou audit en jou verifikasie so lank vat, so ek gee jou nou 10 dae, en as dit nie afhandel, gaan ek dit verder vat met 'n kennisgewing van mosie. So ek hoop dit antwoord jou vraag, Nadia.
Okay, thank you, Schalk. The next question is, and I can't see who posed it, how precise should my record keeping be when applying for diesel rebates? Do I need to specify the exact kilometers I travel on the farm versus non-farming activities? Graeme, would you like to answer that one?
Sorry, I was just finding my mute button, Mel. I think I don't know, Schalk, if you have any input on the diesel record keeping, but yeah, I mean, my experience is to just obviously keep as accurate records as possible, and certainly split it out as you mentioned. Schalk, I think you may be more familiar with the logbook that you mentioned in your presentation. Do you want to?
Yeah, so obviously we don't, as tax attorneys, physically attend to the logbooks or the bookkeeping in that regard. But to answer your question, I'm not sure who posed the question, but to answer your question, you need to definitely keep very specific, exact kilometers, specific to the trade, specific to the diesel rebate and the claim. So your supplier will obviously bring the diesel to the farm and you'll attend to your trade, and anything and everything related to that diesel rebate claim, you will effectively keep record of. Let me quickly just share again the logbook, which again I'll send out to everyone. So you'll see there's the opening balance of the liters received, and then also the kilometers. Rather keep more record, rather go out of your way and keep record of everything, and let your accountant advise you on what's specific in particular to your rebate claim. Thereafter, let the accountant filter it, if anything, as opposed to not having enough information and not keeping enough kilometers and liters on your records. So yes, be as specific as you possibly can.
I think that's all the questions that have been posed tonight, Francois. I think there's nothing else.
Yeah, that's it for now.
Mel, I do see there was a question, why is it necessary to take out the insurance against audits if you're law-abiding? If I can quickly add to that, it's not about you know, you're law-abiding when you drive your car in the road. Why take out insurance? Someone else might drive into you, and you might sit with an anomaly. It's the same principle here. You did nothing wrong, but on the interpretation of the tax statutes, besluit SARS, jy skuld hulle R1 miljoen want hulle interpreteer die wet anders as wat jy doen en jou ouditeur doen. En met gevolg moet jy nou deur die hele audit gaan en die saak beklei. Al het jy niks verkeerd gedoen nie. Of byvoorbeeld SARS vat geld uit jou rekening uit met 'n artikel 179 sonder dat jy die geld skuld en terwyl jy nog besig is om die saak te beklei, gaan hulle net voort om geld uit jou rekening uit te vat. Hulle doen dit gereeld, hulle tree onregmatig op en ongelukkig moet jy dit dan gaan beklei. So ek dink dit is waar die versekering inskop. Sorry Mel, I think that's what she meant, he or she.
There is one more question, Mel, that just came in. Yeah.
Hold on a sec, let me see.
Okay, so let me just read it out. In what way does SARS get away with COVID-related excuses relating to payments or back payments that are late or delayed? Graeme, is there anything like that?
Yes, I mean, what's quite interesting, and I know Schalk and I have worked on a few of these matters before when dealing with, waivering of penalties and stuff like that. The COVID pandemic is what we call an exceptional circumstance. So it is something that can be used to justify behavior from a taxpayer that may have resulted in a penalty. We've had some very interesting interactions with SARS on these. I mean, we've had a face-to-face consultation with a SARS official where we got quite into the philosophical side of how COVID is affecting people's mental abilities and all sorts of things. I think in my interactions with SARS, generally they have been quite amenable to granting extensions when you've said to them, look, someone was dealing with this, but they've had COVID, or we need access to documents, but the offices are closed. Generally, they've been pretty approachable. If you're asking if it's happened in the other direction, I haven't seen any instance, Schalk, I don't know if you have, where SARS have been late on a payment or something like that and used COVID as an excuse from their side for a delay.
Yeah, no, I think ultimately, Theo, what happens is they still have a statutory duty to pay the refund, en daai terugbetaling word geenstens beperk of in die rede geval as gevolg van COVID nie. So SARS kan nie, they still work remotely, and even though they might use COVID as exceptional circumstances to maybe ask for extension or ask for more time to file a Rule 32 or to adjudicate an objection, they have a statutory duty to pay back your refund once it shows on the assessment, and COVID by no means is a statutory excuse to delay that payment whatsoever. If anything, a taxpayer can use COVID as exceptional circumstances should the taxpayer perhaps fail to meet a deadline. But SARS are working remotely. Obviously, if the taxpayer is using COVID as an excuse, it needs to be legitimate and it must be caused by COVID. You can't be disingenuous. But unfortunately, SARS can't withhold refund payments and blame COVID as a result because of the statutory duty that goes with it. So ek hoop dit antwoord jou vraag, Theo.
Baie dankie, Schalk. Ons is al oor 'n uur en ek vra om verskoning. But thanks a lot, Mel, for really facilitating this great discussion and getting all of these guys to participate and for them sharing their knowledge. Schalk, Graeme, James, baie dankie vir al julle moeite en dat julle hier deelgeneem het. Al die inligting is beskikbaar in die kommentaar afdeling. Jy sal sien dis gepin daar in die comment section. Die kontakbesonderhede vir al die paneellede is daarso. As jy enige verdere vrae het, stuur dit vir hulle direk of stuur dit vir ons by navraag@sai.org of jy kan ons kontak op WhatsApp by 066 0716094 as jy enige ander inligting nodig het. En onthou dan, this video is also available on YouTube, on the SAI YouTube page. So if you're going on YouTube, type in SAI, you'll find our channel, subscribe, and you will see the video there as well. So once again, thank you to all the panel members. You have been great. Thank you for imparting your wisdom, and keep well.
Thank you, Francois.
Night, everyone.